Hello and welcome to another episode of Real Issues, Real Thoughts. I'm your host, Garland Camper. Today we're going to tackle the issue of the Confederate flag and what it means to those that feel like it should still be flown or it may be a symbol of heritage to them, and what it actually means to those that are against it flying over public offices as well as in state buildings throughout the United States. We recently know that the state of Alabama and the state of Mississippi have called for their flag to be taken down, but the state of South Carolina and some of the individuals that support the Confederate flag still wants to make sure that that flag is flown over their state house. At this time, I'm going to introduce my guest, Mr. Terry Camper. And Mr. Camper, we know that you are a noted author, and you mind kind of sharing with our audience the books that you've written and the line of what inspired you to write those books?
Well, my first book, the only one that's published actually, is an award winner. Letters from a Teenage Daughters. I was inspired by my then 14-year-old daughter, who's now 19. But it was just a lot that was going on with her, growing from a child to a young lady. And her best friend's dad and I were talking, and there's a disconnect between that little girl and that teenager with a lot of fathers and daughters. And we, as fathers, need to realize that they need us just as much when they get older as they did when they were a little girl. And we need to be able to appreciate them just as much as a little girl as when they get older.
Before we end our program today, we're going to ask you to give us some information where our viewing audience can get a chance to get a copy of your book. But with that said, what we want to do is we want to tackle this issue about the Confederate flag. I myself was actually on Facebook, and I was reading some comments, and I noticed that you and I think it was one of your class members were having this large debate, and I read some of the things that you said, and as you were stating those things, I could remember some of those, but I mean, the argument that you put forth was a great argument. They particularly wanted to talk about the legacy and the heritage of their forefathers and those that actually fought for that flag or fought under that flag. Myself, I have a viewpoint, but if you don't mind, kind of go into how that conversation began and what your viewpoints were.
Well, actually, the conversation with those two gentlemen, we grew up from first grade to 12th grade.
And so, those gentlemen are Caucasian males.
Exactly. And I consider them really good buddies. I respect them, they respect my viewpoints. So we have good debates. This one in particular, of course, started when all the hoorah about the killings in South Carolina and the Confederate flag been taken down.
Let me ask you this: were they sympathetic about the killings?
Very much so.
Okay.
Very much so.
We're trying to establish a kind of mindset of the individuals that support that flag. So these individuals were sympathetic for the families and the victims of it.
Yes, very much so. They actually called the young man who did this shooting an imbecile.
Okay.
And their argument was, how can you use the actions of an imbecile to take down heritage and of the flag? Which I personally, I told you before, I have been for years a proponent of taking that flag down. Why? Because it represents oppression, it represents murder, it represents a Jim Crow South that consciously held the black man down. So in our conversations, Basically, what they said was, like I said, it's heritage, and I explained to them how it's not heritage
Well,
because. Go ahead.
Well, when we speaking of heritage, let's start with the history of that flag.
Exactly.
From what I'm understanding is that the guy that actually made this flag stated that this flag stood for
White supremacy.
white supremacy. It was to symbolize that blacks should not be able to be equal to or even be treated the same as white people.
Well, his statements, per se, was that blacks were inferior as ordained by God. It's a divine calling for whites to be superior. William Thompson, the creator of the flag, there's no way around it. He stated that was his intention, was to make a white flag to show white superiority.
Which is clearly racist.
No other way to look at it.
Yeah, clearly racist. Well,
If you are anything you look at, if you look at the origin of it, that's what it is. I don't care if you look at the origin of this building, why this building was built. That's what it is.
so it was built on the foundation of white supremacy and black inferiority.
Exactly.
Your conversation with your classmates got kind of deep and detailed because of them saying it's their heritage. Their heritage symbolized blacks being slaves, inferior, subordinate, chattel, all of these different things. It created the atmosphere of the conversation that you all had. It didn't show a real plus for heritage to me. So, would you say that those that support the issue of the flag and the flying of it are basically trying to say that this is a part of their heritage and that they may at some point, I don't know what their mindset may be, but that they are maybe supporting white supremacy and black inferiority?
Well, I don't think a lot of them are consciously doing it. I do think that but I know it's not because of heritage, because the flag itself was not designed for heritage. It was designed, as you said before, for hate. It was not used in the antebellum slavery times. It was brought up after slavery, when the Ku Klux Klan was formed. That's when it became very popular. A lot of people don't know it, but at one point in the United States history, there were over 10 million Klan members. Most people don't know that.
10 million.
10 million.
That's a lot of hate.
Exactly.
That's a lot of men.
A lot of people want to excuse it at the time because they want to say those were the sign of the times. Those were, and a lot of people just follow because that was the thing to do. But if you're following something or an organization where they are killing or they are maiming,
Lynching.
exactly. That's, whether you are actively a part of it or not. If you're not a part of this, you're not a part of the problem, but of the solution, you're part of the problem.
Correct. And when you said that the flying of the Confederate flag, and oftentimes I always thought about, okay, the Ku Klux Klan also have a flag.
Mm-hmm.
You see that flag, a lot of people don't recognize that flag, but you see that flag and that emblem on the back of the vehicle, right. Those individuals, if the state of South Carolina can fly the Confederate flag, what prohibits them from flying a flag of the Ku Klux Klan or even ISIS or some other radical group, or Black Panther?
I'm glad you said that. The same classmates I was talking to, one of them posted a flag of the red, black, and green, said it was a Black Power flag. And I corrected him. No,
That's
it's not
not
a black
a black
flag. That's a UNIA flag. United Negro Improvement Association, which was headed by Marcus Garland.
Mhm.
That's what that flag is. And as I told him, you have never and you will never see that flag in a government building.
Oh no, you'll never see that.
Oh,
Not a building owned by the United States.
And I agree that it shouldn't be.
Right.
It should not be, just like that flag, because that UNIA flag does not represent everyone in America. Just as that Confederate flag does not represent everyone in America. The UNIA flag does not have the blood on it that the Confederate flag does, but still, it does not represent all American citizens. So it should not be flown in a public place which is supposed to be representative of American citizens.
You know, and some of the things that happen under the Confederate flag, I'm often reminded of our history. And, you know, I kind of made mention of the thought of gator babies.
Mm-hmm.
And I made mention of that to some individuals. They were like, what in the world are you talking about? These were atrocities that happened. And when I say gator babies, for those that don't understand, gator babies were little black babies once they were born. The people in Louisiana used to take those babies, and as you see on A&E, what's that show called? Bio people or some Bayou people, anyway.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, how they take the old chicken and they hang it on these sticks, and the alligators come up and bite the chicken and they catch it. Well, anyway, before they were using chicken, they were using little African American babies, infants. They would go in and take these infants from their I guess they were their sharecroppers or whatever, and they take those people's babies out there, and that's how they would hunt alligators, with little black babies. And that's how the term gator babies got started. But all of this started, and all of these things were done under this particular flag.
Exactly.
Now, one of the issues that I would like to see is the flag come down. I don't think that the flag needs to be a symbol of anything. The flag needs to be something that represents the past. It's not our past, but it's the past of some of the people that created a lot of atrocities throughout the South, and they fought for something that was actually oppressive.
Well, we do live in the United States of America. Supposed the land of the free. I have no problem with you wanting to fly that flag in your truck. That's your truck. I have no problem with that. I have no problem with you flying that flag on your front porch. That's your front porch. But when it comes to being placed in a government building, being flown atop the state capitol, I have a problem with that. And obviously, a lot of other people have a problem because, as you mentioned earlier, a lot of those flags are coming down.
Well, you know, here in Arkansas, we just went through the big debate, and they tried to pass two House bills and Senate bills to remove Robert E. Lee from the same holiday as Dr. Martin Luther King. They were saying that the two were in totally different directions in where they saw this nation going. Robert E. Lee fought for the oppression and the inferior for black people. Martin Luther King called for unity amongst all people. And individuals here felt like it was Robert E. Lee's holiday before it was Martin Luther King. So where do you see this going now that all of this debate is going on about?
Well, again, we're going back to people's ignorance of the situation. Robert E. Lee, after the Civil War was fought, denounced the Confederate flag, which is, now when we talk about the Confederate flag, we're talking about the battle flag of the Confederacy, which is not exactly the flag that you see today. To paint a picture of it, you have a white flag. Just look at the American flag. We have the stars, the stripes, the red, white stripes. All of that is white on this flag. Where you have the stars, that's where the flag we know is a Confederate flag. That's where it is placed on.
That emblem was in the
yes, on the battle flag of the Confederacy.
Okay.
So like I said, their ignorance comes from them not knowing. Once the Confederate lost, Robert E. Lee was in total agreement with, okay, we lost, we need to move forward. We need to, the Confederacy lost, we're not seceding, we need to move forward.
And he took this stance after he became
President of Washington University.
Washington University. Is that the one in St. Louis?
No, it's I can't remember exactly, but it was north. Yes, it is one in St. Louis. This was one of the northern states.
So, in other words, after he was defeated as their general,
Right, yeah, exactly.
as their main individual that strategized
exactly.
the whole Confederate Army, he took a stance that we have been defeated. It is time to denounce this,
Exactly.
and it's time to move on, and we unite.
He was so staunch in his belief, he refused. He requested, which was honored at his funeral, that flag would not be flown.
Well, it's good to see that he had a change of heart and recognized that if we're all going to live in this nation, we should be one nation under God.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Well,
I still question the liberty and justice of all, for all. That's one thing that we still have an issue with is liberty and justice for all. There's liberty and justice for some, but there's not liberty and justice for all.
and you have those people like my classmates, and I actually talked with another young lady online. She's a white lady, a couple years younger than me, but from the same school. She made the comment that her grandparents were immigrants, and she's probably experienced as much racism and prejudice as anyone, which to me is ludicrous.
It's very possible if she's of limited melanin in her skin.
Exactly. And I say that because now, like I said, this young lady 2 years behind me. So when we're coming up, you go to history class. Throughout history, in those history books, all you saw was George Washington, first president. Every inventor was white. Every politician was white. Everything positive in those history books
We're done about
Caucasian. Exactly. So, as a white child, that subconsciously builds your character to be superior. Man, I'm from this great race that did everything for this country. You're sitting across from a black kid at lunch, and what did your people do? Not that they now would say it, but so the black child thinking, there's nothing in there about me. There is no one in that history book that looks like me. I do recall as a fourth grader in history class, there was a mention of Nat Turner. Nat Turner's rebellion.
Yeah, the revolt or however they put it. Yeah.
Right. But as we got older, I remember the one paragraph that they had about Dr. Martin Luther King. There was no mention of Marcus Garvey. There was no mention of anyone black doing anything.
Malcolm X.
Malcolm X. I'm trying to think of the inventor of the traffic light, the inventor of the mailbox, Garrett Morgan, the inventor of the mailbox. Something as simple and minute as the inventor of the brown paper bag was a black man. But none of that was shown, and it's not coincidence that it wasn't shown.
Well, we sit back and we think about what it is, and they call it history for a reason because it's his story. And when we sit and we think about what they thought of us, they gave us the quote Black History Month, which is the shortest month of the year. And that's the only time that we hear. And then now that we have had Black history, the only thing that we're getting is the Martin Luther Kings and all these different things. We're not talking about the first heart surgery, the first, you learn about the peanut George Washington Carver. You know, it was up until I want to say I was almost in the 9th or 10th grade before we actually really started to understand and learn about certain things that black people did, but we didn't actually have it in school. It was because our mom was a teacher and she saw to it that we knew where we came from and knew who built these things, because most of the things that are done or were done in the United States was built on the backs of slaves.
Well, invention is the mother of necessity, or necessity is the mother of invention, which stands to reason. If I'm out here breaking my back every day, I'm gonna find a way to do it easier. That's why most of the slaves. But let me go back to Black History Month. Just a brief lesson on Black History Month. Start out as Black History Week,
right?
And Carter G. Woodson, and the reason it was made February is because Frederick Douglass's birthday is in February and Abraham Lincoln's birthday is in February. Which coincidentally is the shortest month of the year.
Right. Well, and you know, people sit back and they talk about Abraham Lincoln and the Emancipation Proclamation. Abraham Lincoln owned slaves, but Abraham Lincoln was forced to emancipate the slaves because it was causing a real division amongst this whole country. And he saw the Civil War in its infancy. And he knew that he had to do something in order to create an atmosphere that would settle this country.
But as a saying, if you want to find the problem, follow the money. That's why he had to do what he had to do. It was not because of slavery, it's because this country divided would not have withstood the financial downfall.
Right. You know, up until 1965, before we had the Civil Rights Act that was signed by Lyndon B. Johnson, you know, I know that you talked about Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. Do you realize that before 1965, once we were all able to vote, once we got our voting rights, that almost 100% of the blacks that voted was a part of the Republican Party?
And that era is what ushered the change, the switch from the Republican and their ideology to the Democrat, and the two parties basically just switched platforms.
I agree. With that, I do appreciate you coming and enlightening our audience on some of the thoughts and things, because if I had not have witnessed your conversation myself, and I know that at home we have conversations like this, we have those issues where, you know, we escalate or de-escalate, but we have those thoughts that make you think down inside and wonder, okay, where are we going as a society, and what is our next generation going to think? Because, you know, I said, and I look at my kids, and my kids really have not experienced racism in a fashion that it was done to us. But if you don't know what racism is, you have no way to confront it. There are issues and things that some individuals, and when I say some, I'm talking about Caucasians, they do things and they don't know that that's racist. They think that it's okay to say some things, or it's okay to do certain things. You know, I see some, they expect when they're walking down the sidewalk for you to automatically get out of the way and let them continue to walk. Well, it's not that type of society anymore.
Well, my wife, my daughter, and I were out shopping for a cell phone a couple weeks back. Saw this guy, white guy, and he saw us, came over, hey Jerry, how's it going? And raised his hand to put his hand on my shoulder. I study body language. For me to put my hand on your shoulder or your back, or if we're walking through a door and I gag you by your arm, that's showing I'm in control of the situation. So, of course, not to be rude, I moved out the way. And that's not the first time I've done it. All right, don't touch me on my back.
Well, you know, we have that about ourselves. I mean, because Dad always taught us, shoulders out, chest out, look them in the eye. And that's some of the things that we're not teaching our younger men now. You can take a young man and he shake your hand and feel like a rubber bag.
Let me throw this out there. Yes, we are teaching our young men. And I'm just throwing a plug out for the Our Kids program, mentoring program that I'm a part of, which is unlike any other program in the world. Why I say that? Because it's the only program in the world that has older black men mentoring younger black men. Now you have others, but this program does not allow anyone else to mentor our boys. Why? Some people, oh, that's racist. No, because as a black man, I know where that young black man is going. If you were going to, say you and your family travel a lot, say you're gonna take a trip to China, how would you find out about China? You could go on the internet. Most of the time on the internet, they're gonna give you the positives.
Yeah, that's what I was just.
You can go to a tourist agent. They're gonna give you the positives.
Yeah.
I say, find somebody that's been to China that you trust. That's why we won't let anybody else mentor those young men. We have been where they are going. So, and there I'm gonna throw out one more thing. Probably the biggest mentoring program in the United States, I'm not gonna call out the name, do your history, was formed in 1863, I'm sorry, 1863. In 1863, what was going on? Where were our people?
In the field.
In the field. So obviously, that program was not designed for our children.
That's true. That's true.
If you want, like I said, you can, I don't care what you look at. If you look at that origin, you're looking at that program. If you looked at why it was formed, you're looking at that program. The OK program, you know, I believe the OK program. Yeah. Because these young black men, I had to say, over 70% of our children are raised in homes where there is no single
not a father figure anyway.
Exactly. And until I got with that program, I knew, you know, Dad was always there. Dad was always, he was, I have a saying, a good man takes care of his family. A great man takes care of his family and his community.
That's true.
That was our dad. He was always there for us, not neglecting us, but he was always there for the other kids in the community. And I'm not just saying it, I talk to friends every day. Man, I really appreciate what your dad did. And so I feel if he did that, I'm obligated to do that. Because even more so now, we have more young men out there that don't have that positive male figure.
You know, I coach football. I've been coaching for almost 13 years now. And I coach my team. My boys come from the inner city. I mean, some of the worst parts. And I am probably a man amongst about 6 or 7 that's on our particular age group. We've got probably 6 or 7 on all 4 levels. But we are probably the only fathers that these kids see. Exactly. But we get a chance to get in their life from the time that they're 5 years old, and we're there all the way up until 12 years old. And we are there from July all the way to November. And we are there with those kids daily. We follow them in school as well as giving them instructions on how to grow up and be a positive young black man. But my thing is that I want them to also be able to learn their history and know how to deal with their counterparts, know how to have conflict resolution, things of that nature. But if we allow certain things like this flag to obstruct their knowledge of who they are, we have to show them that there are ways of combating that. What you do is you use your head and not your fist. Have knowledge, be able to constructively conversate about these issues, debate these issues without getting angry. Show that you have an intellect and be able to stand on the ground that you have knowledge. So with that, I do appreciate you for coming out. If you can give us an email address that they can contact you for your books.
Well, actually, the book can be purchased at any bookstore.
At any
If you don't
bookstore.
want to purchase it, you can pick it up at any Central Arkansas library. Right now, working on getting it into the Dallas system. So,
Dallas Public School.
Dallas Public School and the Dallas Library.
Okay.
So, I mean, but in the Central Arkansas area, but even if you're wherever you are, if you have a bookstore, if they don't have it on the shelves, and being so old, they can't still order.
Okay. So if a person wanted to contact you, can you give us an email address or Facebook? Or?
Cherry.camper@lrsd.org.
Okay.
And you can go Facebook, Cherry Camper.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm glad to have you. You've helped us, and I hope that our listening audience will be pleased with this. This has been another episode of Real Issues, Real Thought. I'm your host, Garland Camper. We also want to thank Brother Terry Camper, noted author, and for coming in and enlightening us on some of the things that we can bring to the table on the issue of the Confederate flag. But if you have any issues or thoughts that you might want to bring to us and have us look into those, we ask that you contact Real Issues, Real Thoughts at MyLifeNewsNetwork.com, and we will try and get your information addressed. Again, we thank you for watching, and tune in next time.